Happy New Year, everyone. But in the compliments of the New Year, and I hope you've had a festive season that is, prosperous and very joyful and even relaxing. I don't know if a lot of people relax in festive, but we do find joy in what we do. Today with me, I have Sibusiso Bokveldt from ActionSA. He is the Secretary General, the Provincial Secretary of Youth Forum
Of the Youth Forum
of ActionSA.
Yeah, ActionSA.
So that I don't give you the national stature
Still in the province,
and still
yeah.
in the province.
Yeah.
But one thing I appreciate is that he's come from East London and he's been traveling, and on his way he managed to actually sit with us here in Gqeberha. I want you to welcome Sibusiso, and do you want to also greet people?
Hello everyone, Happy New Year to everyone. Olwam, thank you for having me here. It's been a while.
Yeah.
And finally, siyaqala kulo nyaka. Yeah.
No, ndiyabulela. Is it Sibahle Gunu?
Sibahle Gunu,
Thank you
yeah.
so much, Sibahle Gunu, for being persistent. I know I've not been responsive because really towards the end of the year, all my energies were just going down. And I appreciate you guys for your tenacity to come and always call and say, where are we with the planning? But I really deferred this to January because I knew in January we're going to start looking at the elections and also having new people. And historically, I'll have people that I've met before, people that we've had some kind of conversations before because they are locally based here in Gqeberha. So there's been very few people that I don't know in the podcast. And you are one of those people now that are starting a new trend of really going into the world, into South African politics and talking and meeting you guys. When's the ActionSA in the province currently?
Currently in the province, we're launching branches, bro. We're launching branches. We realized that branch is the primary mobilization unit of any political party. So we're launching branches left, right, and center throughout the province, through all the corners of the province. We're turning Eastern Cape green.
Green. What constitutes a branch when it comes to ActionSA?
What constitutes a branch? So what constitutes a branch is that see, for example, I'll give you a framework as a PCM, where I'm from. Ne? So what's going on at PCM is that we've got like around 50 wards. We've got around 50 wards. We close to 50% of finishing Zonge's awards. So we open a branch. So the branch has to have a branch chairperson, even a secretary, even a VT champions, VT champions, and Gabazukata. EVTs,
Voting
voting
districts, yes.
districts bakade zona. Then abene team yakhe ngoku where bazomobilize throughout the branch and do activities and spread the name of the party within Loward.
And how many people should be in one branch for that branch to be constituted?
For that branch to be constituted, I'd say it also depends on how many VTs there are, but I'd say around 5.
If you have, that's like an executive structure.
That's the executive structure.
And then you use that to implement whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Okay, and then maybe let's go back a little. How have the youth structure in ActionSA been formed? How did you come into place? How does that happen? Is it an appointment? Is it an election? Has there been a conference? Or is it now the process of getting to, initiating and constituting a properly constituted youth structure?
I think that's a burning question for everyone. When is the elective conference? So, first of all, to answer the question of the elective conference, ActionSA is a fairly new party. It started in 2020, in August. So we've just turned 3 in August. So elective conference, as per our constitution, is going to be 9 months after the election. 9 months after the election. So we're looking at around May. So I think 9 months after the election is around about January next year. So that's when it's constituted to take place, the elective conference here too. Reason being is because since it's a fairly new party, we want it to be as democratic and fair and as possible. So by the time we get to elective conference, we're looking at having reached at least 75% branches all across South Africa, so it's as fair as possible. So that's the question of elective conference. That's when it's going to happen. So far, abantu ba interim, people are interim, it's interim positions, it's through appointment. So what happened with the Youth Forum is, I think it was 2023. Yeah, 2023, not last year, 2022, sorry, 2022. That's when the Youth Forum started. It started nationally, then it branched out to all the provinces. So again, up east, through all the provinces, there was it's an application process. Then you all apply within the Eastern Cape. You apply, then you get shortlisted for the interviews. Then after shortlisting the interviews, then they select. So that's how we were selected. Then our structure consists of a chairperson, secretary. So since we haven't had our elective conference, most of our structures are like based in a the election structures, how they're based at this current point in time, because we've got the first in command, which is the chairperson, then there's the secretary, then we've got a voter education, because we realize a lot of young people don't know much about voting. There's a low voter turnout. So we have a person who's going to be in charge of that, called the head of voter education. We've got a media and communications head. And then we've got a fundraiser and a campaigns manager as well. So we correlate and work together in finding ways how to get to the young people within the province. So what we established, and we value Upper Eastern Cape within our youth forum is getting a voter apathy, appealing to a voter apathy, why people don't vote. So we've been doing various activations and campaigns to appeal to young people's sense of the soul. Ubana, these people are actually doing something, because as you go on the ground, you get a lot of people saying, Nina nizokwenza ntoni, yintoni enje niyenzayo, niyafika apha nisixelele lento nalento, and you actually don't do something tangible for the community. So Tina, we do community cleanups.
Okay, we'll get into that. We'll get into that. I think it's interesting as well to see that there's a roadmap. That part of that is that 9 months after the elections, whenever they would be, is there a date? Can I confirm?
I can't confirm a date, but I saw like an interim thing, like IEC City 22nd to the 24th of May, around there. So,
I actually should have checked before coming live. I've been sleeping most of December, having fun. But what I want to get to is that at least as a roadmap that 9 months after the elections, we're then going to go and look for properly constituted structures within ActionSA. But Sibusiso has actually been a student at Nelson Mandela University. As a youth person, a young person in the country, he's had a number of fellowships, and I want him to talk about that and what he has learned from those fellowships and what are they, so that we get to know who he is. And he at Nelson Mandela University, he's done Bachelor of Arts and focus in law.
In law, yeah.
Then law, yes. And now he's actually busy doing his LLB with UNISA. You can see he's an active young person, and I've gotten to see a little bit of his work on social media. But I want you to meet him and him to tell us, where have you been active? What are these, these youth leadership programs that you've been part of, and what have you learned from that? I'm going to give you a ring.
Okay. So the journey started UFS, University of the Free State, but I didn't quite like the place. I didn't quite like the place, so I moved back home. But there I was with SASCO there. I was a bit active with the SASCO there. That's when I got the nick of politics per se. We were busy with Fees Must Fall, Paya, Right to Learn, activations. Then I was also
And then
involved.
which are these years?
It was 2016, 2017.
Okay.
Then I was a bit involved with this going on Res Paya. So that's when the whole okay. But I wasn't really Zangas so I went back home for like 2 years. I was working. That's when I got the nick of farming, the Talanje farming. That's how it grew to now. Then in 2019, I decided, let me go back to school and finish a degree. So I started all over. And NMU, enrolled NMU, started in 2020. But when I got into NMU, I told myself, all the things I couldn't do or done zoyikisela at UFS. I'm gonna go all out here with academics and extracurricular because I knew by university is the space where someone is molded. You know? So that's when at NMU I got there, studied first year. That's the first year. It was started in Feb, then March, then it was COVID, so it was online. So then going to second year, I was like, let me do it, actually. So I started out with there was a fellowship program I started out called the Mnqwazi Fellowship. So the Mnqwazi Fellowship based up a SADC. It's a leadership mentorship fellowship a SADC region. So I think there was like 40 of us there. Started out with that. Then also was involved with the illegal integration program. You say NMU. I was a loggerheads whether I should join that or Black Players Association, but I decided legal integration because it also gave us a chance to have seminars with prominent people like Tuluma Tonsela, and it also gave us leadership activities to do and also get mentorship from law firms as well. So I thought that was the best option. Then I think where the whole to have a sense of I really have a passion for going into the leadership space, going out and helping people is when I actually joined ActionSA NMU. I joined ActionSA NMU. I was a member, then I got into the executive as a project manager. So as a project manager, I started projects such as entrepreneurial space. So entrepreneurial space, what it does, it's still currently running as well, Yona. It's a social entrepreneurship project where we're helping small businesses and teaching them design thinking method and how to grow their businesses, the startups within the student space at NMU. Then we also have Comnet going, a project called Community Networks. That was in line with the most inactors is aligned with the UN. So whatever you do has to align with sustainable development goals. So what we did with Comnet is that it's a hydroponic farming project. So we are cognizant of the fact that Nelson Mandela Bay is a water scarce metro. So what we're putting out is that since the hydroponic farming plants, we pitched the project. Then we national competition, we pitched the project. Then we got funding from Ford Foundation. So we got that funding. Then we started La Plant. So NMU was kind enough to borrow us a space within the greenhouses. So we started the plant there. So it's just it's a plant where it's your normal vegetable farming, but you enter through that plant and it runs on water and electricity.
Yes, you use these channels of that water with particular nutrients actually sort of added on some kind of a central body and then it has to pass through the roots and all of that.
We have this one problem that's affecting the whole country, which is load shedding. Sometimes the plants die because there's electricity outages.
So you can't control the whole environment as much as you need to. So in all of this, what did you learn about leadership?
Through all of this, it's a mind-blowing experience.
Maybe just two things.
Helping people, bruh. I don't know how to put it into words. Sorry. It's having an impact on growth and a trajectory of their future. Because also we also did work with Standard Charter. The bank, they had a project called the Future Makers. So we did that and we went all around the BCM region, helping young people and elderly people to find ways to integrate them into the economy. So you're helping people also from the ground up, telling a story and you're helping them through the journey of actually getting to the promised land.
So basically, this is now mentorship and being able to drive someone's life because now you have a particular influence, in a position of influence. Yes. Okay. Now we're going to come back and actually talk more. I want to ask him his background. Where did Sibusiso learn or get this seed, of leadership at home? Who are your parents?
My dad's a teacher. Both is a retired teacher now. He grew up here, Bofolo, yena. He's from a Bofolo, Glalek Talks in Doleni. He's a hard worker, that guy. He's a hard worker. Yeah, in the yeah,
This is not a political statement.
Yeah.
It's a chant. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, he's a hard worker. He, true what he says, utata nam ndiyazibonela phofu xa ndisizilalini ukuba his parents weren't the richest of people. He grew up kudla ngokuthi sometimes went babefumana 1 meal a day, but he was fortunate enough to get an education. Then you see through his friends abaselalini ukuba hey, this one was the lucky one ukuba he managed to get out.
Yeah.
So from that to where he is now, yo, ifaki pressure lengayo, ifaki pressure. Then my mom, yena as well, she works at a school as well, Kwalasela, Senqakgoni yona. Yeah, she's also quite a hard worker. I think she can lead, yena. She can iyayibeka into uba uthe iyayibeka into. I think most of the things around the family now is planwa nguye and stuff like that. She's like the planner, the leader, and stuff like that. So yeah, I think I've heard once that my great grandfather from my mother's side was Isbo Bilali or something like that. So, but yeah, I don't know.
So the family structure is such that you have an education background within the between your parents, and then there's some kind of leadership when you go
go further back, there is some sort of leadership.
Because of that, what are you taking from that? Do you take that as a mandate? Do you take that as an identity that you carry into the future? How does that inspire you?
It's an identity.
How does it talk to you?
Yeah, it's an identity. And itata to the future. When I come from strong people. Now I would say I'm a strong person. But the leadership for me started quite weird. Like back in high school, okanye, back when I was first year or whatnot, I would have never pictured my trajectory like going into the leadership space. It started quite weirdly through reading books. Then next thing you're finding yourself being nectars. Then then next thing there's a fellowship. Then next thing I'm getting selected as one of 5 South Africans out of thousands Global Citizen Fellowship. Then I grow inside Global Citizen as well and end up the policy advisor, the policy department as a policy advisor. So we went doing cool, and then next thing I'm going to the United States on a leadership program. So if someone would have told me like 5 years ago, you would have been I'd say, nah, you crazy.
Yeah. And what would you have been doing 5 years ago?
5 years ago, I'm working as a waiter at Buccaneers. I'm also coach. I'm working. I think I was a shy person. I used to play rugby. It opened me a bit, but working at a restaurant vibe as a waiter with abantu who are drunk and all kinds of people made me outgoing, I'd say, and be extroverted, let me put it like that, got me extroverted. And coaching rugby, I was coaching the 3rd team at my old school and also helping out with under 14s and
what's the school?
Sterling High School.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me, which position?
I played flank.
I
played flank 6-7.
So you're push and
6-7, under 6-7 good rugby.
That's how I started actually. I started that calendar I think for one then for Nenzondelelo
Ezwelicha. Oh, yes. Okay. A king.
A king, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But let me not talk about me. I want to find out your Glendo Rugby when you just said something and I don't want to miss it. Rugby taught you a lot or taught you something. What attributes can you pull from rugby that you can put in an executive ActionSA?
Communication for starters. Communication. You know, good rugby. We on the field. To find you can tell them to state this is what you know. Communication and teamwork. You have to work as a team to get through the finish line. have to work as a team, and it correlates back to ActionSA, where I'm in a leadership position now. I can communicate effectively with abantu throughout the leadership group. I'm regions, and I'm also in the regional executive at PCM, so I can communicate nabantu abadala as well. You know, yeah, can communicate there as well. So I think the communication and that teamwork, being a team player, because you find that we aren't all, for umzekelo, everyone's doing something different besides politics. So sometimes umuntu akazokwazi uyenza iduty ethile, so ubone uba okay uyabethakala ngapha mandimncedise. That's teamwork. Nami xa ndingakwazi, I can communicate uba please cela.
We're not out here to outcompete ourselves.
Yeah, let's work together. We have a common,
and we need to actually drive together. And where apho umuntu aselela khona kufuneka ancedisiwe.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean ukuthi we undermine you. Sometimes we really need to develop. I hear that, and I want again, because you have not even turned 26 yet.
I turned 26 in October.
In October, so you're gonna turn 27. 27
this year, yeah.
A 27-year-old Sibusiso versus an 18-year-old Sibusiso. What can you advise that Sibusiso?
Sure. But sure, patience. Patience is the name of the game. I think I've got a wild mind.
Explain.
It wonders a lot. Like, It
okay.
wonders a lot. I think a lot.
Okay.
I think a lot.
And how do you organize it?
I organize. It's like sometimes I'll just sit. Maybe it is serious, but I like to think. But okay, what trajectory is my life really going in? That's what I was thinking then. But now I'm starting to see, okay, but then I was like, for starters, out of matric, I didn't know what to do ever since. Ever since. I think that's what hit me a lot to UFS, but do I really want to do law? You know, which is why when I got to NMU, I was like, okay, let me do BA law and have politics and psychology as well. Then you get those political modules. Jan conscientize a lot politically as well, and you get great lectures like Dr. Ongabam Team guy taught me in first year. Is a very good lecturer. I still listen to him now in the podcast.
OG.
Yeah, so, but when teacher online, so we haven't really met physically. Yeah, then law modules as well. Then okay, I kind of like doing this, so let me just continue with it. I think, but I found the trajectory I really wanted to go. I didn't really want to because I didn't know, but it's many people, and I think.
But I still want you to go back to that 27 and 18-year-old.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, but giving him advice is patience. Don't rush ubomi, just and try focusing on one thing at a time. Try focusing on one thing at a time. We really look into that. I think clowns in these needs or funuzenza, then you try doing them all at once. It's sometimes Buddhist, but I think patience, hard work, discipline, consistency. That's what I tell him to do, because I think that's what changed my trajectory, is implementing those couple of stuff. It's not really hard theoretically, but practically it is when you
because
try.
It's time.
It's time.
You only have 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And in that 24 hours a day, you need to sleep a portion.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to maybe do the work. And then you have to actually be the responsible son, maybe partner, and all of like the other part, social life that you need to learn. And you can't do all of it.
You can't do, and I think Nando, to be honest, that also sort of helped my trajectory is a social circle. I decided to bet on the social circle because I had a lot of...
Did you move back from a particular social circle, or did you now select who is your social circle?
It was quite big. It was quite big. I was acquainted and friends with a lot of people, so I sort of moved back Then I also selected a couple ba manhlale naba because lona ndiyafunda into ethile kuye, you know, but yeah, I think selecting your friends is a very important thing as a young person, because once you have a lot of friends, omnye uza kule direction, omnye akuse. So once you have a solid group of friends, where you can benefit from, mutually benefit from your friendship group, I think iyayitshintsha i-trajectory yomntu bra. I think iyayitshintsha xa kumane kusithiwa endlini hayi sibane tshomi ezininzi, uyayibona when you get older kuba oh kwakuthethwa le nto, ubone uba oh lona wahlala nazo ezaa tshomi ezininzi, i-trajectory yakhe iyathanda ukuba nje, yabona. So I think it's quite an important thing xa uba ngathi uyachukelwa xa umncinci kumane kusithiwa
Yeah. So in a nutshell, mamela bazali, that's what you say. You know, and also knowing your strengths, knowing where your weaknesses might be, and making and taking that decision allows you to also move forward. And what I've learned in my life is that every step that you need to get to, there needs to be a particular sacrifice that you make. And you can't get to the next level with every baggage that you had in the previous level. Now you can determine or decide that you're not going to move, you are happy here, and therefore you stagnate for the rest of your life. But then now your life becomes the consequence of the decision that you made or did not make. And all of that.
Spot on, because spot on, bro. Like this past week, I was doing a lot of thinking, and what you've just said, like, came across to me. But every time mhlambi I get up the ladder, I make a sacrifice, but so what you're saying really resonates with me, because like as you grow, and like I don't also like being complacent, I always like growing. So yeah, like, and you understand that to get there you have to sacrifice in this deal and have some sort of discipline that you put yourself to.
And if you're not growing, you are dying. You're not stagnating because even stagnant water is actually, it has some kind of life, but the particular life does not enable fresh organisms, flora or fauna to actually grow in there. Masiyeke ke because ngoku sengicinga nento some botanical fauna and flora and all of that. But what I want to say, where we want to get to right now, I want him, Sibusiso, to talk to us about the policy structure and the framework within ActionSA. As abantu abatsha in any organization, you normally have these challenges that you face with regards to the older group or the leadership of the organization. Sometimes you want to change this and it's not easy to change. Then you realize that you have to either serve or either demand for change to happen. I want him to tell us, how does that look within ActionSA? Yes, you are 3 years old, but then I know that as young people you want to move faster. What are these conversations that you are having intergenerationally that you feel could move faster, and how are you dealing with them?
Not to say they could move faster, because we have conversations within the party. It's a very conducive environment. So it's not to say we being suppressed by the older generation. It's actually none of that. See youth structure. We can go to Mr. Trollip Athol and ask him, hey, Mr. Trollip, can we please do activation engine? He's just, Mr. Trollip is a strong leader. He's a strong leader. We look up to him a lot. And he just wants write it down for him, A to Z, because he's a results oriented type of person. So A to Z, A to Z, he's either gonna accept it or reject it, but he barely rejects it because not as he coping know. But and even with our policy conference, we had our policy conference for September. Even there wasn't to say kuzo caucus or let's have a caucus, we will caucus when we want this policy decision. No, as soon as we went off the bus, Safi into the reception area, then Athol told us, listen guys, Tina sends a caucus, if when ufune ipolicy ethile phakamisa isandla sakho for yona because asisebenzisa red no green. So if uthandele ipolicy phakamisa green, if uthandele lena oyifuni lena phakamisa red. That's just how it's going to be. No one's going to push you and say no sukuthi ku policy conference because it's a collective voice basifuna ndone sisonke as a part, you know. So I wouldn't say kunzima. I wouldn't say kunzima at all. It's
what are these policy discussions? What are the what are the main issues, say, in education?
On education, so ActionSA wants to build the education system which is a equality education for all. Not to say, but if you grew up in a suburb like Summerstrand wafunda ePearson, for example, then ufunde eZwide education ingafani, sifuna ifane yonke education kwi ActionSA, and we're looking into doing that through a system of meritocracy. Meritocracy meaning meritocracy, sorry, yes. Meritocracy meaning we want to kwenza government system ibe merit based. Being merit based meaning we want to do away with cadre deployment. So we want to do away with cadre deployment and put the best people for the job. The best curriculum as how align with the economic needs of the country, and it puts you in a position where you could also be able to participate internationally as well. And also to say, don't be stagnant, be only academic based. Extracurricular activities must be on sports, arts. Look at an arts, for example. Look at a drama, for example. Look at where it put a country like America. Entertainment industry was based around the Hollywood. Look at how much revenue it gets for a country like America.
Okay. So, and I wanna come back to this meritocracy that you talk about. There's a guy called, he's a philosopher. There's a guy called Michael Sandel. He talks about the tyranny of merit. There's a book he has, The Tyranny of Merit. How merit sometimes don't really express, you know, they're not as honest, they're not as fair as one would think it to be. And I'm not trying to ask you about the book, but I want you to maybe even not today, but to also have a look, even if it's watching on YouTube, on the tyranny of merit.
Okay.
Because merit can be used the same way that you could use statistics. I could actually point towards direction and say 100% of these people have done A, B, and C. I can also say 10% of these people have actually failed this and that.
Yeah.
An example, in the Eastern Cape, we normally come with metric results. We normally come with bottom 3. I don't know what are the current stats this year or last year, but I think we normally around bottom 3, maybe 4 when we are lucky. But when you look at the amount of matriculants that we put out into the country, and the bottom 3, Mhlambi, Limpopo, Eastern Cape, KZN, changes every year, of course. You look at the most rural provinces normally have the biggest contribution, over 50% of a metric pass rate within the country. But provinces that has smaller numbers, like the Free State, around 10,000 a year, would actually have higher output, higher percentage output, because they're managing smaller group of people and in a smaller land mass. Like Joburg is smaller, but there's a number of people, so it's easy to actually get to point A and B. I'm raising this not to dispute your focus, but also for the benefit of our listeners, that when you're going to look at statistics, meritocracy, sometimes there are other factors that sometimes don't come, but because we have to present statistics, we have to say that Ubani is stronger in this than this one. It does not always focus. It does not always look as good. Now, having to have known that and heard that, you can respond to it, but I also want to find out the policy on health.
Okay. Can I get back to Lena education? So, clearly merit based. So basically, it's just to say, the best person must get the job.
Okay.
The best person must get a job. If ndim nawe, then you're the best person, and I'm part of ActionSA, but I don't have the best qualifications. Makungene wena into the job because you are the one who's effectively gonna do the job better. So that's what we're saying. Then to get into the rural space, we also want to start a program, ECD, early childhood development, get that into the system and roll it in, and get more trainings in for teachers to bamenze more better umsebenzi wabo. And also we want to do away with this thing of pass rate even 30%. We want to get it up to 50%, and we don't want to measure a matric pass rate by pass rate ka matric qha. We want to see injani pass rate from grade 1 up to grade 12, and also try to mitigate the factors ezenza abantwana baphume esikolweni. And also we shouldn't forget that in the Eastern Cape our education system is very horrific. You go out to areas in the areas in the Transkei, and you still get abantwana who still have to walk 10 to 15 k's to school and cross rivers. I know, for example, Kulali, there's only one school and it's a primary school, and when you have to go to high school, you have to walk in 10 kilometers. If your scholar system doesn't come, you have to walk, and sometimes, most of the time, I speak. So Mdana gets to school at around 10.
Yes.
Utiniwe.
Yes.
Gets to 10, and
Yes.
afunde umzekelo phansi komthi okanye afunde in a mud hut engawa nanini na, okanye there's all still pit latrines and stuff like that. So we need to reform the educational structure and infrastructure within the schools to make education as conducive as possible. Then going into lena ubuthetha ngayo ke ngokupolicy health, we want to put in the ActionSA dream, which we call the South African dream, is that ultimately we see a healthy society. Healthy society, abantu bakwazi, people can take care of themselves, people are healthy, people don't need to go to the hospital as much because they're healthy. Then we are cognizant of what's going on now. So we also note the controversial NHI. Even though it comes from a good place, it won't be conducive within the framework of South Africa, because we feel as though, as ActionSA, and I personally strongly feel as though, what the government should be doing within the health sector is that we should be building more hospitals. For starters, there's a lot of hospitals that are run down. I know, for example, there's one at Johannesburg, Kuruleni, oko savalwa ngo-2004 kwathiwa solungiswa zange siphinde sivulwe. You know, things like that. So we want to maintain hospitals, build more hospitals, and we are also open to private public partnerships within helping.
So that's how you fund it. Okay.
Yeah, not necessarily funded, but you know, from a whole of society approach to help into the health industry, and also get more clinics in. We want to have 24-hour clinics, Zivuli clinics, because you get remote areas where there aren't any hospitals and the only help is a clinic, and when it's closed there is no help. And ultimately also have enough medicine in all the hospitals, because you get people turned away from critical work in a chronic condition and they can't get medicine now. So we need to reform that whole system.
I want to come back to, I know Secretary General where UTM, Uyongama Zikeba, who's also been in the program, talked about the pit latrine.
Pit latrines, yeah.
Is that how you call it? I used to just say pit toilets.
Pit toilet, yeah.
He has a campaign that he's actually brought to Parliament. I'm not sure when it would be discussed again, where he's actually had a signature campaign to bring attention to these pit toilets in the Eastern Cape, especially in the education space. Would ActionSA Youth support that?
100%. 100%. Nah, brah, like, I think that there's a pandemic going on in South Africa. Like, listening to I'm a political geek. I listen to everything with regards to politics. So what I've learned recently is that in our parliament, there's Kuchiwo. I don't know, I've never been there, but apparently what goes on is that whatever legislation is put in, if it's not put in by the ANC, it's rejected. And by virtue of the ANC having a majority, be rejected, it's dead and done, you know. So I think what should be happening in the country is that if I'm from ActionSA, you from UDM, you from DA, you from wherever, if you have a good vision or a good proposal you want to put in and legislate, let's support it. It's for the good of the people. That's why we're there. When you're there doing decisions for the people, you should put politics aside and be there for the people.
Yeah. So, Yongama, here is also a person that you can actually connect with for your petition, but I'm sure that it will actually surface in public eventually. Now we've had the issue of NSFAS, and I want you to tell us if there has been any conversation within ActionSA, especially the youth, where you breathe into the question of NSFAS in the country.
Yeah, a lot's going on there. I was reading just now, there was a voice leakage, they're doing corruption, money is going to ngapa and ngapa, it's being distributed and stuff like that. And it's quite sad, they've cut the budget by over I think it's more than $1 billion they've cut the budget by. And a lot of students are going to be affected by that. But we've had a couple of conversations on the funding model. We've had a conversation on the funding model, and Tines Eastern Cape, we came up with the funding, as Youth Forum is Eastern Cape, we came up with the funding model. Says, listen, NSFAS was working well with the loan system. It was working well with the loan system. Things started to be wrong when it started doing the bursar system, where people did not have to pay imali back. So I think in our current economy, I think what should happen is that we should divide it into quintals: quintal 1, quintal 2, quintal 3. So quintal 3, I'd say kabona abafotayo. Quintal 2 is the middle class. Then quintal 1 is the lower class. So I think we should go.
There should be 5 quintals, isn't it?
Okay,
yes,
but I think just summarizing it, I think the lower class, okay, it could be in this framework it is currently now. By those who really can't afford, let's give them education for free as a government. Then a middle class, which is usually not catered for, let's make it a loan system, Kobo, and put in a fixed amount. You're gonna pay this amount. Let's say 2%. You're gonna pay this amount of indondon up until we then the upper class who can pay for themselves, they could also qualify for the loan system if they need to, but if they don't, then they can pay for themselves. So I think as it was before was the best way it was than now, because now you're finding a lot of there's no money, then now kuchinjwana service providers and stuff like that. So I really think it should go back to how it was, where you pay back the money, and also if you if you can pay it back to also give back to the country, That's how I think it should work.
Is the youth of ActionSA in the Eastern Cape concerned in any way with regards to international affairs, especially the conflicts? Pick anyone in the world.
Not really. I don't want to lie. Not really per se. But we are informed. We know what's going on. There's conflicts. First of all, here in Africa, there's coup d'etats going on left, right, and center. There was one just last year, Burkina Faso. There was one in Niger. There was one in Gabon, a coup d'etat. There's a war going on in Congo right now. Then there's the Ukraine-Russia, and there's the Palestine and Israel situation that's going on. So we are informed about them, we know about them, and yeah.
Any particular position in any of those wars?
Our policy position here, ActionSA, with regards to international relations, is that we should champion human rights. I think we should champion human rights and not keep silent about this and and actually speak out as mother body yet, who's actually doing a lot of good work on the media side, speaking out on these topics and for the Israel-Palestine one, for example, we're saying that situation can only be resolved on the table as to how we can sort this whole thing out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Knowing your position that you are at a provincial level, I would have pushed further.
Yeah.
But I wanted to know to an extent that we can actually have this conversation. Sibusiso Bokveldt. Every time when I mention his surname, Bokveldt, I wonder do you feel any particular way?
They did very well last year, World Cup. It's great what the Springboks are doing. Like, it's what the country's supposed to be doing. Like, bringing all types of backgrounds together and having one common goal. I think it could go a long way, especially in our departments within the state. You go to a BCM municipality, you only find umtu omnyama, paya. I think there are also white people, there are also Indian people, there are also colored people who want to do good work for the country, and they should also be integrated within the system. We are non-racial, ActionSA, so, and I'd really like to see a non-racial country where everyone gets together and goes for one common goal. I'd really like to see that happen. And background, you see Springboks, Makazole Mapimpi comes from Olwam. Then you see Henry Pollard went to Paul Gymnasium. That's a privileged school, and Makazole Mapimpi wayidlala rugby ezilalini eTolomnqa, coming together and for one goal and taking South Africa forward. So it's a very good framework that Turasa put in Paya, and hopefully they get to a third World Cup.
And I can see that you've taken up this thing here, Springbok, as a former rapid player. But I want to maybe as your parting shot, and ActionSA in its vision, in the kind of aspiration that it wants for South Africa. There's a document that you have on your website. But there's something that keeps on coming up is that, number one, you'd like to redress whatever was happening in the past, but then you want to build a united South Africa. What are the programs, and what are some of the tools, the approaches that the organization will apply in order to carry this redress?
So with one of our policy pillars, we have the economic justice. When we part this interview, I'll actually send you our policy document, our approved policy from the policy.
Yes, because I couldn't find it on the website.
Okay, I'll send it to you. I was actually thinking of sending it to you before I came, but we have economic justice. Ne? So as you say, we want to address past inequalities as in we are for empowerment, affirmative action, and first of all, we want to eradicate NPE. Not to say we want to eradicate NPE as a fool, we don't want to empower anyone. We want to bring NPE in its current sense hasn't really helped Abantu. It hasn't really helped Abantu. It's failed. It's only helped only a select group of people about politically connected. So what we want to do is bring in something we'd like to call IEE, Inclusive Economic Empowerment. So it should be more inclusive, and it's still going to be around previously disadvantaged groups, your black, Indian, colored, but it should be more inclusive to wonke umntu or previously disadvantaged. We also want to accelerate land reform according to I think it's section 25 of the Constitution from...
I would not say it here.
Yeah.
And also make it even wrong.
Okay. But we want to accelerate land reform. We want to accelerate land reform. We want to give back the land kwabantu who deserve it as well. Your black emerging farmers, we want to give land out. Distribution land. That's our economic justice pillar. We want to, and we also want to do industry opportunity fund. Opportunity fund, how that will work is that opportunity fund is that it's gonna take a certain percentage of the private sector, of the profits of private sector. It's gonna run for 30 years, and the money that's gonna be taken from your opportunity fund is gonna help fund young up and coming black entrepreneurs. It's gonna help fund them, and it's also gonna work in terms of building infrastructure and stuff like that within the country. And also sorry about that. Within our economic prosperity pillar, policy pillar, we want to SMMEs. We want to make starting up an SMME easier, and we're looking into legislating banks make it much more easier to get funding for SMMEs, SMMEs, and we also want to cordon them off of bargaining counseling agreements for the first 3 years, so that it's much more easier to start business for SMMEs as well. So yeah, that's what we want in a nutshell for ActionSA on social justice and economic justice, I'd like to put it.
Okay, do you use black like me for your hair products?
Don't use any 70 clip and a plate to come.
Okay, now you are in an interim structure. Are you coming back?
Yeah.
If
I get voted for the elective conference, but we aren't thinking that far. We're looking at elections now. That's the main plan now, is elections. And as Athol once said in interviews, and feel ActionSA within the Eastern Cape, because Eastern Cape is predominantly ANC area, and Abantu, I'd like to think people can see what ANC is doing to them. I'd like to think people see what ANC does to them, and I really hope they don't forget once they get to the ballot box. And we're spreading the word of the ActionSA hard, so that they know there's a valid alternative to the other political parties, and this is what ActionSA is offering, and this is what ActionSA could do. And we've got a lot of competent people within the party that could do the job to the best of their abilities and actually make a change within the Eastern Cape. And we were hoping and willing that the people will see this is the valid alternative to what there was before. So yeah, we really want to make a difference within the Eastern Cape and throughout South Africa as well, and we'll shock a lot of people at the elections.
Optimistic as usual. All politicians are going to be this as much as optimistic as this guy next to me. Right now, I really wish you all the best with regards to your LLB with UNISA.
Thank you.
I really hope that you complete that, because people don't people really like people who succeed.
Yeah.
So now you've chosen LLB, please do succeed in that. Add your voice in it, and don't shy away from raising people's issues. And sometimes you might be a lone voice in leadership. You'll soon learn that sometimes it's honorable to lose raising a particular issue.
Yeah.
And then secondly, I really want to appreciate your coming down and actually having a conversation with me. And really, this is the first conversation for the year, and I'm looking forward to more. It would be great to have Mr. Mashaba to come. Hopefully, we'll have him in studio if he comes
also
down
Ethel
to.
as well.
Yes, even Ethel Trolip. He's a friend of mine. Lupumla Joka has already had a conversation with Ethel,
Mr.
and I've
Trolip,
watched it. They had it in Motherwell.
Okay.
And it will be great. Was it in Motherwell, actually? I remember it was out in the street, Lupumlo. Don't judge me. But it would be great also to speak to Herman. It would be great. Just as a concluding thought, now that you've heard everything that we've been talking about, what would you like to conclude and say that you have not been able to say? What did you want to say?
Yeah, I think we've said a lot. But yeah, I think leading up to the elections, especially to the young people, it is very important to vote. We mustn't be passive bystanders. We should all research and not be vulnerable to misinformation about politics and what's actually going on within politics. Go out, read material, read books, read manifestos, inform your vote and register to vote. Registrations to vote is open up until President Cyril Ramaphosa announces when the election date is. You don't wait for the second voter registration weekend. You can also do it on your phone. We're always on our phones. Most of us have the internet. You just type on Google IEC voter registration. It just needs your ID and your address. Then you just put in your details there. Then voila, you're registered to vote. So we have a very low voter turnout. And we as young people need to take a stand. We can see the type of direction where the country is going, and we really need to take a stand. I know we as the Youth Forum, Yalapa Eastern Cape, and the National Youth Forum, both all over South Africa, we're working very hard in getting young people registered. And above what, and we can fix South Africa, and they'll vote for ActionSA, hopefully.
He's taking all the airways. Thank you so much, Sibusiso Bokveldt, for coming. Special thanks to Sibahle Kuno as well for being patient with us to have this conversation. Looking forward to more of such conversation as we're coming closer to election dates. There goes up the window again as bus CV issues coming up.
And
And thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.